It's BTC at the TBC, and what a lineup we have for you today on Beat the Champ, presented by Storm. Our defending champion, Scott Dingman, will try to hold off these challengers, Pat Brick, CJ Buttery, and Tom Murphy. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Tonawanda Bowling Center. I'm Paul Peck with Hall of Fame bowler Sue Nawojski. You look at that lineup, and we've got a Rochester Hall of Famer, a Buffalo Hall of Famer, a champion of Buffalo's Obenauer Masters, and an 18-year-old phenom. We got it all covered this week, don't we?
Yeah, we do, and we've got a couple left-handers, we've got a two-hander, we've got a guy that bowls with no thumb. So it just proves that there's no benefit to anything you do. You can get here if you're good.
And as we've learned about our defending champion, Scott Dingman is consistent and straight and just knocks a lot of pins down. He's going to be tough to beat.
He's going to be tough to beat, and it's going to be fun to watch an 18-year-old that we've never had on the show before take on these veterans.
Yeah, so it should be a fun show. We've got a lot of different kinds of bowlers who come at it in a different way, and that's going to make for a fun hour of television. We're going to get it started. It's Beat the Champ here at the Tonawanda Bowling Center, and we get rolling right after this. Beat the Champ is sponsored by Storm, the Bowlers Company, and by Latina Boulevard Foods, your favorite family in food distribution. And let's get it started with Tom Murphy versus CJ Buttery, the 18-year-old who is making his Beat the Champ debut. It's the debut for both guys. Tom Murphy has got some accomplishments in his past that we'll talk about, but man, I don't know that we've ever had anybody this young qualify for this show, and we are excited to get our first look at CJ Buttery. Two-handed bowler, as you can see, wow. And the results are there.
Well, CJ's very confident. He's got a lot of accolades already under his belt at 18 years old. He broke all of Sweet Home's records. He bowled for Sweet Home High School. And he's had a lot of success already, but that is a very calm, cool shot for his first one on television.
Yep, and he already looks the part. Well, speaking of looking the part, that's where we get to Tom Murphy. At 52 years old from Williamsville, New York, some amazing achievements already in his bowling career. Starts it way right, hooks it back, and leaves a couple of pins.
Yeah, I guarantee you that was not his mark. His mark is a few boards, five or six boards inside of what he actually hit. And I would say that, when you're not putting a thumb in the ball, which he doesn't, you're using your wrist for a cradle. I could see where there might be some margin for error there. Yeah, so as you note, as Sue has already said, that's the uniqueness of Tom Murphy's style, and that's not the way Tom Murphy, the 2022 Obenauer Masters champion, wanted to get things started with an open in the first frame. So, again, no thumb in the ball. I was going to say I yield to your expertise on this, but you'll probably tell me I have no expertise on how to bowl without a thumb. I can't. My wrist hurts watching it, so I'm just going to say that takes a lot of arm strength. Great rotation on the ball, though. So when you're a regular, quote-unquote, bowler, what does the thumb do to help the process of throwing the ball? It is Tom hard to clear the thumb. Now doing another way. It is another factor to have to clear the thumb, but we feel when you're pulling it back, you'll see that Tom's arm is bent and his wrist is cradled. That's a lot of pressure on your wrist, which you wouldn't have. You have a straight pendulum swing when your thumb's in the ball because the ball's not really in any risk of falling off your hand. But there is that element of having to clear the thumb. That's why they get the rev rates they get without their thumb in the ball. Now, on the other side, a two-handed bowler, as so many of the younger generation of bowlers have become, and you can just see the power of the throw and the revolutions and the speed from CJ Buttery. Very accurate. It's pretty impressive for an 18-year-old to come out here and throw it like that. Not a lot of break. right, mostly a straight ball that we've seen. So he's not asking the oil or the ball to do a lot of movement.
Yeah, he is playing up the boards. You're right, and that break point is very smooth.
Does that mean you have to be more precise when you release the ball in the right place because you're not going to get the movement?
No, he's using a ball that's right for the condition, so he's chosen that ball to do what it's doing. And he's straightened it up some too.
Oh boy, little hold your breath moment there for Tom Murphy as he does get the 10 pin to go down. I think that look
funny
on his face tells you what I just
because he made
was
a ball
thinking.
change and he's actually playing them a lot closer to the way CJ's playing them than how he started out. He was much deeper on the lane, trying to open it up more, and he's tightened up the line and you've chosen a different ball.
So it's a spare in 2 and 3 after an open in the first frame for Tom Murphy. 52 years old from Williamsville, New York. Facilities maintenance is the occupation at Eaton Mission Systems and also a little part-time work at a pro shop here in Western New York. Been bowling since he was 9 years old, and again, the major achievement on Tom's resume is winning Buffalo's most grueling and toughest tournament to win. That's the Obenauer Masters. He did that in 2022. We've got 2 Obenauer Masters winners on the show this week. Pat Brick having won it at some point in his career as well, too.
Right, and
2004.
that of course gives them shows the experience they have. Tom
CJ probably hasn't won it yet because they probably wouldn't let him in yet.
Probably not, but there's always this year.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, now wait for Tom to come back up at this point now. But it's kind of funny looking at if you weren't seeing who was throwing the ball and you just watched the ball roll down the lane, they're really now using the same area of the lane, both these guys.
So, again, the two-handed style is super interesting to watch.
So it's a shorter backswing, and you see that bent elbow, which they obviously they have to in order to cradle the ball. And just the work on your body that it takes. But the rev rate is the benefit. Great shot.
5 frames, 5 strikes for the 18-year-old who bowls at Erie Community College, C.J. Buttery. And right now, after that little bit of a skittering start for Tom Murphy, pressure is already on.
Did we mention ECC college bowlers every week we bowl?
A few times, yep. Great program.
Yep.
One of the many great college bowling programs here in the Western New York area. But ECC has a long tradition of a great bowling team that's turned out a lot of really good bowlers.
Wow.
All right, that's 2 in a row now for Tom.
That was a confident shot. That went way down the lane before it made its turn. His target went almost all the way to like the 3-4 board, and turned around very late.
Both of these guys don't have a lot of break. You know, we've seen some other bowlers like Mike Zarcone on last week's show where there's a much more of a bend.
Well, that's by design. That's by design. The lane conditions are dictating what ball they're choosing, and they're controlling their break point. So it is definitely what they think they need to strike.
Over 20 career 300 games for Tom Murphy, a career high 836 series. And that time when you don't hit it exactly where it needs to be hit, that's what you have left.
I get the feeling that his feet is getting a little bit fast. Well, it's not too bad. He got that inside of his target a lot.
So this one is going to be a challenge, a 3-6-7-10. And I think Tom's, well, you know what? He took a shot at it.
It's pretty makeable if you hit it the right way.
Took a shot at it, so it'll be an open in the 6th for Tom Murphy. We come back to see if C.J. Buttery can stay hot right after this.
From the most humble of beginnings to the pinnacle, dreams can come true through hard work, demanding excellence, and conquering challenges. There will be celebrations, along with the unending quest for innovation. Nothing is impossible. Storm.
Paul, what are you doing?
Hey, Sue. Hey, didn't you hear? We're bowling on MSG. I've got to practice.
No, Paul, we're not bowling on MSG. We're hosting bowling on MSG.
Oh, thank goodness, because there is no way I was going to be ready. Beat the Champ here on MSG. Soon Nawojski and I will bring you all the action. We'll see you on the lanes.
Paul, were you going to bowl in a suit?
Well, CJ Buttery has wasted no time announcing his arrival on the Buffalo bowling scene. 5 strikes in his first 5 frames here in this match against Tom Murphy. And again, just another cool customer. And this is an 18-year-old kid bowling on TV for the first time ever. He is perfect through 6.
Yeah, he's feeling pretty loose and comfortable.
A couple of youth holiday tournament wins, making the cut at a junior gold tournament, already has an 800 series in his career. Just those are achievements that you don't always expect to see an 18-year-old kid have on his resume, but I think by watching him bowl already, there's no doubt we know why. 7 in a row.
Now that shot was in a little bit, and that's a testimony to having the right ball in your hand. And we've talked about that a couple times. When you are using the right piece of equipment, you get a little bit of right, a little bit of left. That was a little bit inside of what he was playing, but it sat up beautifully.
So a lot of work to be done for Tom Murphy. And that's a good way to shake off that last open frame with a good strike there in the 7th.
At this point, Tom is down 80 pins and trying to figure out what he's going to do when he makes his next show.
So if you were with us a couple weeks ago, we had legendary Mike Haynes on the show here, and Mike filled the role that we fill as the partner to Van Miller in the legendary days of the original Beat the Champ, and then part of the Tops TV Challenge. Well, the only other time Tom Murphy has bowled in a TV setting was on that show back in the 90s, and probably on these very same lanes.
Absolutely, on these 2 lanes. There's no doubt about it. So this is a bit of a deja vu for him.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's been a little while between appearances, but it's got to be fun to walk into the same place. And meanwhile, it's the TV debut for this young man, and he doesn't seem bothered by any of it at all. 8 in a row.
Inside a target again. And
so
he's got a nice little niche there.
As you say a couple of times that he maybe wasn't exactly on the target. Is that the unforgiving part of the two-hander and the speed that allows you sometimes to miss your target?
I think that I'm going to go back to choosing the right piece of equipment. And this has become a very technology-based sport. I mean, you have to be consistent. You have to repeat. But a ball will give you a little forgiveness. And I feel like the ball that's in his hand right now just sits up in the oil, and it gives him a little recovery from the right, and it allows you to get comfortable.
So speaking of that Tops TV Challenge show back in the 90s that used to be filmed right here at the Tonawanda Bowling Center, Dave Gwindon once had a 300 game on this pair of lanes back in that show, and we're going to go to the 10th frame where CJ Buttery has a chance to do the very same thing.
I wonder how old Dave was at that time.
Probably not 18
Probably a little
years
bit more
old.
than 18.
And I bet you had a little tighter haircut back then.
And you can see, maybe. You can see that Tom's bowling really, really quick, trying to get out of the way. He just wants to give this kid a chance to get up well. He's got some momentum
Is
going.
that what you do when you're bowling against a guy who has a chance at a perfect game?
I mean, why not? I mean, in this case, he's already lost the match. I'm absolutely positive he's just trying to get out of the way, let the kid get up and have a chance. It's hard not to root for this young man, you know?
So Tom Murphy puts up a final score of 206.
Very respectable considering he had 3 opens.
Absolutely. So, and here we go. It's the 10th frame. It's CJ Buttery at a chance for a perfect game. He's had 5 of them in his young bowling career. Will he get number 6? That's the first one.
What a debut for the 18-year-old from Amherst, C.J. Buttery.
I know, he's a little, see his dimples?
He is not fazed by it at all.
Oh, not that you can see.
2 more to go. We're in the 10th frame.
Oh. He didn't dislike that.
Well, eventually that pesky 10-pin was going to rise up and be counted, and that's just too bad. I mean, what an incredible moment. It already is, and it would have been for C.J. Buttery. Nonetheless, it is a 289 victory for C.J. Buttery. Watch him as he watches it. I think he knew it right away. Yeah, he was muttering to himself a little bit. I feel bad for him. But super impressive, and we're going to get to see him bowl again. He'll go up against Hall of Famer Pat Brick when we return to Tonawanda right after this. Well, going to be a fun one in match number 2, a contrast in age and style and achievements and power and everything else. Pat Brick, legendary Hall of Fame Buffalo bowler, and C.J. Buttery, who just dazzled us in that first match, taking a perfect game into the second throw of the 10th frame for a 289, and I would get the sense that if CJ knows his history, and I would think that he does, he's got to be pretty excited going up against Pat Brick.
Yeah, and he just said, wow, so he didn't seem to expect that reaction. But I'll tell you a little secret here as a bowler. When you're using area on a lane, it has to be non-intentional. You still have to be like aiming for your target, and if you find out you have a little bit of room to the left or to the right, you really don't try to shoot at it. You still continue to throw at your target, and you have that area, but it's not area that you can actually try intentionally to use. I don't know if that makes any sense, but he saw that he had a little bit of in and used it, and the ball went high.
Well, you saw him miss that 1 pin on the 2-pin spare, so it's an open 9-pin in the first frame for C.J. Buttery, and here comes Pat Brick, 57 years old, from right here in Tonawanda. A Hall of Fame Buffalo bowler and one of the most accomplished bowlers in the history of this city.
Yeah.
And this is his first appearance here on our show, and it's good to have him back on the lanes like we're used to seeing him.
I agree, and let me tell you, this guy puts his hours in. He bowls tournaments religiously. He puts his time in competing, and he's had some wrist issues. You see that he's got a support on his left wrist, and he's down to a 14-pound ball now. Like Mike Haynes had told us a couple shows ago, that 14-pound balls are becoming more common, where it was always 16. And if you went down in weight, it was always to 15. But now 14 isn't really affecting carry that much.
So I was going to follow up and ask you to dive into that a little bit. And again, from my uninformed opinion, sometimes I would say a lighter ball, it might be easier to throw, but might also have more variance in how it reacts because it doesn't kind of have the weight holding it in one place. Anything to that at all?
I think it's a matter of strength and ball speed. It was recommended. It was suggested to me that I go down to 14 pounds. I throw 15 pounds, and I tried to drill one up, and it felt like I was literally throwing a softball. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't be accurate because it was too light for me. I felt like I could muscle it and throw it all over the place. So I feel like the pendulum swing, which you need, was easier to maintain with the heavier weight. So I think it more has to do with how much weight can you handle.
And there's a good bounce back strike from CJ after the open in the first frame. Is it become something that us old guys have to adapt to, easier to throw a lighter ball as you get a little older?
Sure. It has to do with age without question. But it also has to do with, some injuries along the way, too. And that happens with age as well. So it's kind of tied together.
Yeah, I mean, I should have asked Pat this question, but I mean, how many frames has he bowled in his lifetime? I mean, there's eventually a wear and tear that goes on, millions maybe of them.
Right. And honestly, you have to decide for yourself, like 14 pounds still is going to create, you're still going to be able to carry with 14 pounds. And that has to do with the weight of the ball, again, physics. It has to be enough weight to not deflect off the pin. So 14 pounds, you're still okay. And it's not the hugest sacrifice in the world. So if it makes you able to bowl longer, it makes you able to keep bowling it instead of having to quit, then it's well worth it.
Third frame now for Pat, spare and open on the first two. Big hook from left to right, and a strike for Pat Brick.
Yeah, these guys are out of the gate a little bit slow, so nobody's running away from anybody here.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see you're now testing CJ's bowling skills, because he's not just pounding all the pins down. He's got to make some spares. He's got to make some adjustments. He's got to bounce back from some disappointing things that have happened just in the first three frames here. And again, that's all part of the learning process, and I don't have any doubt that CJ's already figured out how to handle that, but we'll see. Pat Brick knows how to handle it.
And I think at CJ's age, there's going to be a certain amount of coaching that comes into play, how you've learned, who you've learned from, because you're not automatically gifted this knowledge. I mean, at 18 years old, how much experience, do you have? He has some good experience, but there's so many nuances to this game that he's, learning on the fly.
Great slow-mo replay that shows just chaos around everything but the 8 pin.
Around it.
Like, it's just like, how does all that stuff happen and none of it knocks the 8 pin
That
down?
is a question sometimes.
So that was a great replay by our guys on the crew here, just to illustrate that point. All right, so CJ has been all over the place here in the first three frames after striking on his first 10 shots of the first match. He has gone open, strike, spare. And there's strike number 2.
So you got to keep in mind that this is an ever-changing lane condition. I mean, as the balls, even though you've got one right-hander, one left-hander, so you're not getting double play on each lane, these high-performance bowling balls really do pick up the oil in the lane and move it around on these synthetics. And it's a process that makes things change on a regular basis, and you have to be on top of it.
In another example of how bowling is such a wonderful family sport, when we asked C.J. Buttery who his bowling idol is, he said my grandfather, right? And I'm sure that's who has given him the love for the game and has probably helped him grow within the game and learn some of the nuances, and then all the great Western New York coaches that he has had since then have allowed him to be what we believe to be the youngest qualifying bowler we've had on this show.
And I go back to bowling with people that have come before you. That's how you learn. That's how you learn etiquette. That's how you learn terminology. That's how you learn how to make moves on a lane and how to understand what you're seeing happen. The only thing that's you have to stay on top of is the technology of these bowling balls, because it's become such a big part of the sport.
Now I'm assuming that Pat was messing with us a little bit when he was asked for his bowling idols, and the right answer might seem to be Parker Bone. That's a good one. And then he also added George Shableski. Not that we don't love George, but I think maybe Pat was throwing a little bone to his buddy over there.
Nope. I guarantee you that George's attitude, it's going to be something. It's going to be something that he's picked up from George, whether it be the way he handles adversity or the way he prepares or the way he acts on the lane. There's something that Pat really, really respects about George.
And we've learned that about George as well, too.
George,
absolutely. We have learned that about George, having had him on the show, I believe, 5 or 6 different times now. He is a pro's pro. All All right, so tell us the story about Pat Brick's career-high 898. So I'll let you hold that, and we're going to go to a break first, then we'll let Sue tell you the story of one of the most amazing 898 series that Pat Brick had. We got a good match going. We've got the Hall of Famer. We got the youngster. Come on back.
The Western New York area has long been considered one of the best anywhere for the sport of bowling.
And no matter where you live, we have lanes nearby.
For top competition,
Fun with family and friends.
great food and drink, or just a night out, we got you.
We are
The bowling proprietors.
of Western New York.
Stop in and enjoy our sport today.
12X Tech Bowling Supplies is committed to continuing the decades-long tradition of excellence established by the DeSanto family. We are the ultimate destination for customer service, experience, and product variety. We offer an extensive inventory of balls, bags, shoes, and accessories. Our unique fitting and drilling process, combined with our in-house lane, ensures a perfect fit every time. With a range of repair and maintenance services, we can help keep your gear performing at its best. Consult our team today at 1000 Highland Drive in the J. Scuddy South Plaza, conveniently located off of 390 in Henrietta.
I'm Paul Peck.
And I'm Sue Nawojski. We want to see you out here bowling for the top spot on Beat the Champ.
So get to any of our great host centers and get the details on how you can be a part of the show and be our next winner.
And don't miss any of the action here on MSG every week.
Yeah, so check out the show next week or get out there and qualify and be our Beat the Champ winner.
Well, CJ Buttery found his groove with strikes in the 6th and 7th frame, so now 7th frame for Pat Brick. Tell everybody the story about his 898 series.
So he was bowling a tournament, and he had shot 300, 299 for his first 2 games, and he was part of the eliminator format, which is you bowl as a group, and they eliminate half the field. So, of course, with 300, 299, he got through both eliminators, and it was down to 2 people, him and another guy. And he lost the eliminator with 299. So even though he shot 898, he ended up losing because the guy he was bowling against shot 300.
That is unbelievable. That is amazing.
That's why he likes to say it was bad carry.
Yeah. All right, well, Pat's got 2 strikes in a row as he hits the 8th frame, looking to keep that streak going and continue to put the pressure on CJ Buttery. Yeah, that one just didn't have a lot of oomph.
He wanted that one too. That would have put the pressure definitely on CJ, as you said.
Oh, there you go. And a missed spare pickup.
I'm going to tell you, there is very few times you are going to see that out of Pat Brick.
Well, we've seen it twice in this match.
I'm not missing a 7.
Might be the only time in Pat Brick's career that he's had 2 opens in the match like this. So now working 2 in a row, 18-year-old CJ Buttery has a chance to chalk up a win against a Hall of Famer. And he is right back into the groove of the bowler that looked so great in that first match with the 289.
And that's what you got to do. You got to walk through those openings when they're given to you.
Yep. So if CJ Buttery can finish this off, he'll beat one Buffalo Hall of Famer, and he'll go up against a Rochester Hall of Famer in our returning champion, Scott Dingman. You talk about wanting to announce your presence in the Buffalo and Rochester bowling community, knock off a couple of Hall of Famers in a row.
I mean, I don't know what CJ's aspirations are as far as bowling tournaments going forward. I mean, obviously he's got 4 years of college ahead of him, and he'll enjoy, I'm sure, a lot of accolades in that. But this is certainly going to go a long way for his confidence. Well,
I'm no counselor, but if he asked me about his where he wants to go, I would say stick with the bowling, youngster. You're pretty darn good. You are pretty darn good.
It looks like he's going to be a pharmacy tech, so that's not too shabby either.
Nope, not at all. Spare in the 9th frame for Pat Brick.
I feel like Pat, for whatever reason, is using a weaker ball. He's going to go. He just went over and got another ball here to see what would happen. But that ball was just, I think, a little bit too weak for what was out on the lanes.
And there wasn't a lot of
that was
speed on that one, but he hit it in the right place and got the pins to do the work.
Yeah, he got the swisher on that one, but that one seemed to lag a little bit too.
I'm telling you, our reaction shots are just the best. I think maybe we're just going to do a show where we just show your reaction shots and let you guess at the results and
that's a great
keep
one.
track at home and see how close you come to the right
Was that a good shot or
score.
a bad shot?
Right. I mean, it's the best part of watching these guys at such a high level is the how they react. Sometimes they react to a bad shot. Sometimes they react to a not perfect shot that's still a good shot.
Right.
And sometimes you just turn around and walk away as the strike happens behind your back. So
and that says something too.
Pat Brick with a 191 on the board, but he is going to sit back like the rest of us are and watch CJ Buttery, who after a bit of a scuffling front side has run 4 strikes in a row here on the backside.
And again, that's all part of the game, is dealing with the transitions on the lane, which he had to do. Yeah, now's the time that maybe he just makes a spare and takes a different ball and throws it and sees what happens, and to judge what he might need going forward. Because he has another match on this pair against another left-hander, so that's not going to change his side very much. He's pretty much in control of his side of the lane, just bowling left-handers.
All right, so one more fill ball to go here for CJ Buttery to post up a final score and make it 2 in a row. His 289 in the first match of the day, the highest score we have had here. We've had 2 of our highest scores of the entire first 4 months of this show come right here at Tonawanda. It was Ricky Zanone's 276. It was CJ Buttery's 289. And this 217 is going to be enough for CJ to advance to our championship match against Scott Dingman. Beat the Champ, presented by Storm. Championship match is next. Our host center for Beat the Champ, presented by Storm, is Tonawanda Bowling Center. You can find them online at tonawandabowling.net. They're just one of our many great host centers. If you want details on how you can be a part of Beat the Champ, just stop in at any of our host centers and ask them how you can be on the show. And we could be seeing you here on the lanes with your eyes on those target pins. Final championship match, CJ Buttery and Scott Dingman. Be careful if you volunteer and you want to try to get on the show, maybe figure out a way that you don't have to go against CJ Buttery, because he looks tough to beat. But so is Scott Dingman, our returning champion, who came up with the win last week against Ricky Zanone to knock Ricky off after a couple of weeks and take the title. And again, Scott Dingman, a Rochester Bowling Hall of Famer, against the youngster. Good matchup here. One lefty, one two-hander. And Scott Dingman says, I can strike out pretty well.
He said wow.
Yeah?
He turned around and said wow.
All right.
So something there surprised him.
So first frame now for the 18-year-old CJ Buttery, who has been a revelation to watch here. And talk about the future of this sport. Guys like that, like he, are the future of this sport, not only in the Western New York and upstate New York area, but maybe even nationally.
So we talk about having to deal with the transition, and said on his fill ball he should try something. This is a different ball, and he has moved everything in. And when you change areas, sometimes it's the right thing to do, but you have to fight the 10 pins, because you're catching a little bit more oil.
CJ currently a member of the Erie Community College bowling team. We talked about that a little earlier in the show, the outstanding program that they have over at ECC. He is a part of it now. Previously bowled in high school at Sweet Home High School, another outstanding high school program here in the Buffalo area. And there's CJ's first strike of this match.
This kid has great touch. He just tweaked it just a bit. He did what he had to do to get that ball to sit up after he saw what happened on the right lane. He's got really good touch.
If you didn't see how he bowls and you see what he bowls, he looks just like a traditional bowler, a tactician, a precise, exact. To me, we've seen two-handers on this show before where it is just all about I'm throwing it 50 miles an hour and I'm blowing the pins out the back wall. CJ doesn't strike me that way, and certainly Scott is one of those guys as well where it's more about the positioning and the preciseness. 53 years old from Rochester is Scott Dingman. Occupation as an on-site representative for the Granger Company. And again, just an outstanding career. Rochester Masters wins, 54 800 series for Scott Dingman. And again, this is his third appearance here on the show, 2 wins and 1 loss, coming off a weekly victory last week over fellow Rochesterian Ricky Zanone. And that is a third strike for Scott Dingman. And a little fist pump there.
It's feeling like he's not happy with some of these shots. I think on both times on this lane he's pulled it inside of his target. But he'll take the result.
Yeah, he didn't care to like that very much, did he? And that's a little bit of an unusual
Yeah, so
lead
where
for
he's moved
CJ
into
Buttery.
on the right lane, he is catching a little bit too much oil, and that would be the result of a light hit here is 2-8. You got to make sure you hit this right on the 2 pin so you can get that sleeper out behind it.
So you're
that
going
8 pin.
right at it?
You have to hit it right on it. Good
work.
cover.
Spare, strike, spare in the first 3 frames for CJ Buttery.
So he's dealing with a little transition here. Obviously, a good ball change on the left lane, struggling a little bit on the right.
To further my point, I'd be curious to see whether where his two-handed speed and rev rate, matches up against some of the other two-handers we've seen.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have the ball speed that you're used to seeing.
And I don't know that that's a bad thing, because I do think maybe sometimes it allows you to be more of a bowler and less of a thrower sometimes. Yeah, much more controlled as a bowler, which isn't always an indicative quality of the two-handers.
Well, one thing we've talked about when we've talked about two-handers is the tendency to leave formations, because the way their balls are going wide angles and the way it hits the pins, there's a lot of 4 counts and 5 counts and wide open things that look like you've just basically cut through the middle of the pins. And you'll see less of that with CJ because he's not looking for those big angles.
It almost, as we get to know CJ, this is something that we can certainly talk to him. It's almost as if some of the influences in his life were traditional bowlers who were like, really, kid, you're going to bowl that way? Why don't you bowl the way I tell you to? And the compromise was, all right, let me do the two-handed stuff, but I want you to teach me all the other stuff as well, too.
I really don't know what motivates two-handers, but, youth, and I guess there's just quite a few of them. We've seen less and less of them on the show, though. I mean, this is the only two-hander we've seen here at Tonawanda.
Yeah. And for those people that aren't necessarily regular viewers of the tour, the two-handed thing kind of goes back to Jason Belmonte, the outstanding PBA bowler from Australia, who sort of was the first guy to come in and dominate with that, and thus that has led to a lot of other people saying, well, that's going to work for me as well, too.
It's honestly more of a rarity not to see a two-hander on the Pro Bowlers Tour.
And again, this is a topic you and I have discussed before, but for people that may be just tuning in, bringing the two-handed revolution in the sport of bowling is literally someone coming into the NFL as a quarterback and throwing behind their back and being better than anybody else.
Yeah, but it was within the rules, so now we'll see rules change and things adapt. And, I guess everything's always in constant evolution, but...
So while Scott Dingman is perfect through his first 5 frames, CJ Buttery comes up with the strike in number 5, and as he peers down the lanes for frame number 6, knowing that the other guy is on a heater right now, And CJ is a little bit all over the place right now after that ridiculous 289 in our first match of the day. So, yeah, I'm super intrigued by just the two-handed thing. It's like someone just decided to do the sport completely different, and instead of being laughed and ridiculed about it, he kicked everybody's butt. We'll talk more about it when we come back. Good match going on here. Championship, Buttery and Dingman beat the champ, presented by Storm.
From the most humble of beginnings to the pinnacle, dreams can come true. Through hard work, demanding excellence, and conquering challenges, there will be celebrations, along with the unending quest for innovation. Nothing is impossible. Storm.
Hey, Paul, what are you doing?
Hey, Sue. Hey, didn't you hear? We're bowling on MSG. I've got to practice.
No, Paul, we're not bowling on MSG. We're hosting bowling on MSG.
Oh, thank goodness, because there is no way I was going to be ready. Beat the champ here on MSG. Nawojski and I will bring you all the action. We'll see you on the lanes.
Paul, were you going to bowl in a suit?
Our championship match continues here from the Tonawanda Bowling Center in Tonawanda, New York, just north of the city of Buffalo. It's the sixth frame for Scott Dingman, our returning champion. He has been perfect through the first 5. And again, we've seen Scott over the last couple weeks. When he gets in a groove, he stays in that groove.
Yeah, well, he didn't get to be
Very
a Hall of Famer or nothing.
Right?
Yeah,
because he's very consistent.
Yeah, he is consistent.
And how about that for ending your run of strikes by having the bowling gods throw 7-10
You're like, please, one or the other, not both.
Excuse me.
That was bad pin collision. Nothing got thrown. Everything got held up.
Again, another priceless reaction shot. All right, let's see if Scott has a little magic at all. Going to try to hit the 7 and kick it to the 10. Instead, he'll take the 7 out. So that's an open in the 6th frame for Scott Dingman after strikes in the first 5.
And that still keeps him up 27 pins. I mean, it didn't really hurt much his lead much. Just looking for that big game.
2 leagues a week for Scott Dingman, 85 career 300 games for him. We're thinking maybe we had a shot at an 86th, but still got a chance to get a second consecutive victory. Right back to striking. One of the cool things that we've had a chance to see with Scott was back when we were bowling last month at the ABC Gates Bowl in Rochester. He had a chance to go up against his son, Josh, and that was a really cool moment. Maybe not so cool for Scott because Josh rather handily won that match, and I'm sure reminded his dad about it multiple times since then, but pretty cool moment for both father and son. 7th frame now for CJ Buttery. He goes back to striking.
It was. Scott's the kind of guy, though. I mean, he said he roots for his son all the time. It's hard to turn that off. So, I mean, I guess you just don't have the same fire and intensity when you're bowling your offspring.
Hey, you know,
you cheer for most of the time.
Sure, we all want to make sure that the kids look good. Sometimes it's at our own expense, right?
That's what I see.
And
again, that left lane is just giving him fits.
So it's, as we've seen, it's been rather dramatic, the changes from the right lane to the left lane. Why is CJ struggling on one side and not the other?
It's, I don't know if it's a full-blown struggle, but you can see he's playing that. He hit his target, and it comes up just a hair high, not enough to leave a split, but enough not to carry, leave that 4-pin. But when he moved in, he left the 2-8. So, I mean, your normal move for that would be just to move in a little bit, but you catch a little bit too much oil and the ball just goes straight. So he's kind of in a little bit of a jail spot because it's kind of late in the match to start switching balls, and so it kind of puts you in a position where you just try to tweak it a little bit, or you just try to do something a little bit different to get something different to happen. But that lane looks a little wet dry for him.
All right, a chance to maybe put this one away here for Scott Dingman. 8th frame. Got it.
This is a tough competitor here.
It's a
he
pro's
doesn't
pro.
slap him out in your face. He doesn't like get super boisterous or show you a whole lot on the lanes, but he wants to win.
Yep. Again, just consistent and professional, and knows what to change, what to adjust. And while the other guy is having the ups and downs, Scott's just staying steady and knocking down pins and getting strikes. That's 3 in a row for Scott Dingman. Winner of this match advances to next week's show, where they will await the 3 competitors from the in-house Tonawanda Bowling Center League qualifier to come to him to see whether this week's winner can maintain that into next week. And if it's going to be Scott, then that'll give him a chance to go 3 in a row. I have the feeling that whether he wins this one or not, this will not be the last we hear of CJ Buttery. And I hope not.
I hope not.
He is a fun, up-and-coming kid to watch. And again, as an 18-year-old, an incredible amount of poise and professionalism, and just understands how to act, how to be a bowler.
I just want to mention right there that he made that move again off the 4-pin and left another 2-pin. So he wasn't able to get through that wall of oil in the middle of the lane with the ball that he's using.
I mean, again, CJ did win his last match, but sometimes as close as you came to that perfect game, losing it in the 10th frame, can it impact you a little bit? Because, we've seen the scores drop a bit from that point on.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's always the lane is always transitioning, and it just takes 3, 4, 5 frames sometimes for the lanes to change on you, even though you're the only one bowling on it. So you got to have a plan. You got to know what you're going to do when the lanes start to change. So it's really just part of the game and these matches.
First shot of the 10th frame, Scott Dingman leaves the 7-pin.
And I just like
this one's in hand.
Add that, when you do see that, when you do see the dry to the right of you, if you're a right-hander, if you see the dry to the right of you and you have heavy oil to the left of you, you want to try to get a more forward rotation on your ball and ride that oil line, and that's the trick.
So it's a 233 to 199 victory as Scott Dingman remains our Beat the Champ winner. We'll talk to him and set you up for next week's show when Sue and I return. It's Beat the Champ presented by Storm.
The Western New York area has long been considered one of the best anywhere for the sport of bowling.
And no matter where you live, we have lanes nearby.
For top competition,
Fun with family and friends,
Great food and drink, or just a night out, we got you.
We are
The bowling proprietors
of Western New York.
Stop in and enjoy our sport today.
12X Tech Bowling Supplies is committed to continuing the decades-long tradition of excellence established by the DeSanto family. We are the ultimate destination for customer service, experience, and product variety. We offer an extensive inventory of balls, bags, shoes, and accessories. Our unique fitting and drilling process, combined with our in-house lane, ensures a perfect fit every time. With a range of repair and maintenance services, we can help keep your gear performing at its best. Consult our team today at 1000 Highland Drive in the J. Scuddy South Plaza, conveniently located off of 390 in Henrietta.
I'm Paul Peck.
And I'm Sue Nawojski. We want to see you out here bowling for the top spot on Beat the Champ.
So get to any of our great host centers and get the details on how you can be a part of the show and be our next winner.
And don't miss any of the action here on MSG every week.
Yeah, so check out the show next week or get out there and qualify and be our Beat the Champ winner.
Beat the Champ is sponsored by Storm, the Bowlers Company, and by Latina Boulevard Foods, your favorite family in food distribution. Second week in a row that Scott Dingman stands here as our Beat the Champ winner. Where does the preciseness and consistency in your game come from?
Just years of practice. I've been doing this for a very long time, so it's just part of the routine, and practice does make perfect. It sounds cliche, but it's really true. So yeah.
Sometimes your reactions tell us exactly how you think, sometimes not. They don't always.
Very true. I wear my heart on my sleeve. That's very true, and you can definitely tell how I'm feeling. So yep, absolutely.
Well, Scott is our winner, but in that championship match and all during the show, we were captivated by the performance of young 18-year-old CJ Buttery. He is joined with Sue Nawojski.
Thanks, Paul. I'm here with CJ, and you gave us a thrill with the first 10 on Beat the Champ. What did it feel like to almost shoot 300 on TV?
It felt great competing against such highly skilled competitors, and it was just a lot of fun.
Well, we saw this smile on your face when we turned around, the ball left your hand, and turned around, you were watching the ball roll down the lane, and you had a smile. What brings that out in you?
I just love the sport, bowling, and then my friends and family here supporting, so I always like to be happy when I'm bowling.
And that's how it should be. That's what we want to hear. Back to you, Paul.
All right, thanks, CJ and Sue. What were you thinking when you're watching that first match and CJ almost rolls the 300 game knowing I got to have to face this kid?
I was nervous. He was throwing it great all day. I was just hoping I could hopefully catch him the third game. He looked like he lost his carry on the left lane for him, and I was just lucky enough to catch him and his slightly off game. So,
you know, as we saw when you bowled against your son Josh back in Rochester last month, you know, you're familiar with the young next generation of bowlers and how to get the most out of them. How impressed are you with what you saw from CJ and what you've seen from all of these young bowlers?
Incredibly. The sport is in good hands. I'm really glad to see how many young kids are coming out and bowling, and just to see where the game is going, I can't be happier for them. So yeah.
All right, so you got 2 under your belt now. How long you think you can keep standing here as our champion?
As cliche as it sounds, I'll go one at a time. So we'll go one more show, and we'll see where it gets me.
All right, well, we're definitely going to get Scott back for next week's show. It's our in-house Tonawanda Bowling Center qualifier, but we got some great bowlers and some familiar names. So that'll be next week when you join us here at the Tonawanda Bowling Center for Beat the Champ, presented by Storm.